Sometimes life doesn't test our strength. It tests our honesty. Imagine a moment where one small lie could fix everything, and one simple truth could cost you everything. This story begins at that exact moment. In a peaceful green village tucked between gentle hills and flowing rivers, life moved slowly. The houses were made of mud. The paths were narrow and winding. Golden fields stretched as far as the eye could see under the warm sun. In this village lived a boy named Andy. Andy wasn't famous. He wasn't strong. He wasn't rich. Most people barely noticed him. But what they didn't see was the quiet honesty growing inside his heart. Every morning, Andy worked in the fields with his father. His hands were often dirty. His clothes were worn, but his conscience stayed clean. One afternoon, a sudden announcement echoed through the village. The village chief had lost a valuable gold coin. Whoever returned it would be rewarded generously. At once, everything changed. Neighbors began to whisper. Friends looked at each other with suspicion. The air felt heavy with greed and doubt. That evening, as Andy walked along the edge of the fields, something glimmered in the soil. His heart skipped a beat. He knelt down, dug gently with his fingers. There it was, the lost gold coin. In that moment, Andy stood at a crossroads. No one was watching. He could hide the coin. He could help his struggling family. No one would ever know. But a question echoed in his mind. If I choose this coin over the truth, who will I become? His fingers tightened around the gold. His chest felt heavy. Then, with a deep breath, Andy stood up and began walking toward the village square. What he didn't know was this: that single choice would soon teach the entire village a lesson they would never forget. The village square was unusually quiet as Andy stepped forward. Every eye slowly turned toward him. Whispers followed his footsteps. In his small, trembling hand, the gold coin caught the sunlight. A soft gasp rippled through the crowd. Andy raised his voice, calm but firm. I found this near the fields, he said. It doesn't belong to me. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the village chief walked forward, disbelief written across his face. You could have kept it, he said softly. No one would have known. Andy looked up. I would have known, he replied. That single sentence hit harder than any punishment ever could. The chief took the coin and then did something unexpected. He placed it back into Andy's hand. This, he said, is not a reward for finding gold. It is a reward for choosing truth when lying was easier. The villagers stood frozen. Some lowered their heads in shame. Others felt something stir inside them, something long forgotten. From that day on, Andy was no longer invisible. Not because he was rich, not because he was powerful, but because he was honest. Parents began telling their children about the boy who chose truth over treasure. Friends stopped whispering behind each other's backs. Trust slowly returned to the village. And Andy? He went back to the fields the next morning. Same worn clothes, same muddy hands. But this time, he carried something far more valuable than gold: respect, integrity, and a name people would never forget. Because honesty doesn't make life easier. It makes you stronger. And sometimes, the smallest choice creates the biggest rise.